here we are out at Badger Rock for another one of our virtual workshops. It is the time of year, if you have fruit trees, to give them a pruning. So we're going to be learning how to prune fruit trees. Just the basics is what we'll go over today. If you really want to go deep into pruning, there's lots of ways to learn. There's YouTube, there's UW Extension. You can go deeper into all the different kinds of trees and how specifically to best prune each different kind as well. But for the basics, you're going to need some tools to start with. One of the tools that is indispensable that you really are going to need is some pruners. So these are just, plain old pruners. Make sure they're nice and sharp. They should have a lock. You can unlock them to open them up and lock them back again so that nobody cuts their fingers off. Another great tool to have is a pruning saw. Be super duper careful if you use a pruning saw because they are so sharp, and make sure that the saw is locked. Did you hear that little click? You want to make sure it's locked so that you are pruning along and your saw closes on your hand. So we prune our fruit trees with our middle schoolers, and so we are really focused on safety when we use these tools. They're easy to use and they can be used really safely. Another great tool to use for pruning fruit trees is loppers, both for pruning suckers, which these little branches right here that are growing straight up from the trunk, those are called suckers. They're basically just sucking the energy from the tree, and so they are a great branch to just take right off. Loppers are great for these, so you don't have to get down in the dirt to get these branches off. You can just, well, mine got stuck in the grass, but you can just lop them off with a lopper. And there it is. So that is one sucker removed from a tree with lots of suckers. Loppers are also great if you are a vertically challenged person like myself. They give you a little higher reach to get up in that tree to prune. So some things to think about when you're pruning. Number one is make sure you sanitize your tools when you move from tree to tree. So I have a little alcohol wipe. My favorite is those little hand sanitizer wipes that you can pull out like a tissue, those wet ones, for sanitizing your tools. You could just wipe them down between each tree. That's so you don't share diseases between trees. So for the basics, you are looking for the 3 Ds, first of all: dead, damaged, and diseased wood. If you see any branches like that, you should just cut them completely out of your tree. Like this one. Check out this little damaged branch right here. All it's doing is dangling there, not looking too good, right? So this would be a moment to use your lopper or get up in the tree and take this branch off. So this is a dead and damaged branch. It's probably not diseased, but you can tell if a branch is dead by if you bend it. Instead of being flexible and bending, it'll just snap. And the inside of the branch will be brown instead of green, which shows that it's alive. I forgot to mention the best time to prune is when a tree is still dormant. So that's before the buds start to swell and open up. So really around, I think of Valentine's Day, like mid-February to mid-March is usually the ideal time for pruning fruit trees in Wisconsin. They're still sleeping. They look like they're resting and their buds are not fat yet. So get them pruned before that, because once they start to grow, pruning time is done. So make sure you get it in. So dead, diseased, damaged wood, you also want to look for any branches that are crossing each other or that are growing in a way that they are going to cross each other, and choose one to keep and one to take out. I usually choose a branch that's facing outward to keep so that the tree can continue growing branches outward and get sun on the fruit. If you have branches on your tree that are growing right in towards the middle, you might want to consider cutting those off too, because they're just going to shade out any fruit. So crossing branches, also any branches that are parallel and growing really close to each other, they're going to kind of fill the same niche. So you want to choose one to keep and one to take out. Look at what the branches look like. If they look strong and good and like they're going to be growing in a way that's going to get a lot of sun and hold a lot of fruit, consider keeping that branch instead of maybe a weaker one, or one that just doesn't look like it's going to hold up or be growing in the direction you want it. You also want to look for something called water sprouts, and these are branches like this that are just growing whoop straight up. Those are branches that, look how they are organized over here. They're not going to really be holding fruit very well. They're just growing straight up. So those you can just cut right off too. When you make a cut, you want to make sure that you cut it in the right spot. So if you get really close to this branch, you can see there's a little collar around it, this like thickened part that's got some, it looks like a collar, right? And so what you want to do when you prune is to prune right up next to that collar, but you don't want to prune inside that collar. You want to keep that intact. So I'm just going to get my pruner in here and get this water sprout. And if it's too thick for a pruner, that would be a moment to get, woo! Here comes that wind. That'll be a moment to get out your saw. So we have a really windy day out here. This is a saw moment, so I will show you all how to use that pruning saw in my pocket. Okay, I'm just going to get in here and I'm going to saw it. Also, you want to make sure your pruning tools are sharp. If they're not, you're going to end up accidentally damaging your tree, because you'll end up making raggedy cuts, and that's not good for the health of the tree. So make sure your tools are sharp. So you can see there's a lot of water sprouts on this tree, just branches going whoop. That's because we had to take this branch off last year because it was growing into the parking lot, and they had to get some machinery through here. So they trimmed it right off, and look it. The tree was like, what are you doing? And it's sending up all this new growth in random directions. So let's see if I can see more things that I could show you on this tree. You can see there's a lot of branches that are crossing. Look at this one growing right up here, crossing this one. If you look at that, this branch is nice and strong and sturdy, and it's growing outward, and it has some fruiting buds on it. This is an apple tree. This one is growing straight up, looks like a water sprout, and it's crossing. It's just going to interfere with this one a lot. So what we're going to do is take this one out. All right. So this is again a saw moment, I can tell. And you want to, ideally, you don't want to trim any branches of a tree that are beyond the thickness of like your arm, if you can help it, because that's going to stress out the tree a lot. If you need to make cuts like that, only do them when you need it. There's just so much going on in this tree. Look at all these little water sprouts right here. Boop, boop, boop. So these are all going to come off, and these look like a job for a pruner. These are all going to come off. Okay. Another thing about pruning is you want to think about what the shape of your tree, what shape you want from your tree. So some trees, especially apples, people will leave like what's called a central leader. So you have one main trunk growing up here, and then you have 3 or 4 scaffolding branches that you start with. You want to encourage those scaffolds, and you want to encourage that central leader. The trick with that is sometimes that central leader gets really tall and you can't reach the fruit. So sometimes people will prune with something called a modified central leader type, where you kind of you prune so that you're encouraging more of those scaffolding branches to really take the lead. There's also open pruning, which you should do for peach trees especially, where you don't have a central leader at all. You encourage the scaffolding branches to grow out so it's open, almost like a cup. And these kind of different growth patterns, you need to encourage these from a young age from the trees. These trees have been around a really long time. And when I started, I'm not sure if they had ever been pruned before, so we've been kind of playing catch up with them. Lots and lots of more resources on fruit tree pruning. We'll throw some of them in the comments so you can go deeper on any of these pieces that you are interested in. And if you want to check out specific tips for specific trees, sweet cherries are the one tree that you should not prune during the dormant season. You should wait and prune those during the summer. So sweet cherries are the one exception to that rule about dormant pruning time. So yeah, we have apples, pears, cherries, plums, Asian pears, peaches, all kinds of good things happening over here at Badger Rock. So hit us up in the summer and get some delicious homegrown fruit. We grow to share. So thanks for tuning in, everybody, and let us know if you have any questions or if you have any tips of your own. Throw them in the comments. We'll learn from each other, and we will this season grow as much food as we can for the community. And fruit is, oh, it's so delicious and it's so expensive. So come on out and get some at Badger Rock. Thanks, everybody.